Welcome to our normal midweek devotion, only this week it's not midweek, it's midweek. That is between last midweek and next midweek. That's because I started the B-roll out in the observatory under the stars in Schuyler County, Illinois, and I'm taping the devotion part up here on Lake Huron in Michigan, just a little bit away from maybe a couple miles from Port Austin. So welcome. I got something kind of neat to share. I'm going to have my son Jeremy help me with it. Back many moons ago, when I was a young pastor, we had a conference-wide pastor training day. We had it in Springfield, Illinois, and we brought in one of our bishops to just sit and speak candidly with us and to talk with us about being a pastor. I was excited. I had my notebook out, I had my pen out, and listening to the bishop. And so the bishop came in and shut the door and walked over to us. And I don't remember what else he said that day, but I remember he said this. He said, "You need to realize, pastors, that not many of you will ever have a large, quickly growing church. And that's because too many of you are stable. You're balanced. Some of those super fast-growing churches that you read about and hear about and long for are led by pastors that are out of balance. They're just not real stable, and they attract a lot of unstable people." Not sure I really thought about that, but that's going to be the topic of our discussion today. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you.
Sounds good.
I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, one at a time. And because we always try to keep this fairly short, I'm going to give you, I've put it on my little thingy here, I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer. When the bell goes off, you go off, like it or not.
Sounds good.
Here's the first question. Do you think the bishop was right all those years ago? Or is he a little overboard, or was it shock value? But do you think that a lot of the real popular, fast-growing leaders in our country, probably political and, church and whatever, that they are a little out of balance and have issues, and that attracts people that are out of balance and have issues? You have 1 minute to tell me your thoughts.
So it's a good question. I would say a lot of it depends on how you define out of balance. Because at first I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. Because, there are well-known examples of super charismatic ministers that wear very expensive sneakers, are friends with celebrities, attract huge followings, but then it's later discovered that they have a bunch of indiscretions. On the other hand, you also have Jesus Christ, who was the Son of God, holy, sinless, but who attracted massive followings. But you could also argue he was out of balance by our contemporary standards.
And you could also argue that he lost his massive followings.
Yes, you could. I mean, he said the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. He was friends with wandering vagabonds who ate locusts and wore basically camel skins. So as we would define him today, he would have been extremely out of balance, but he attracted an extremely wide following. So I think that, yeah.
Well, I do believe your time is up.
I think your bishop is probably correct.
Okay. We're going to try this again. The second question I've got, a little bit biased, bigoted, because I'm an older person now, but down through history, a lot of major movements, like the communist movement in China, for instance, that was responsible for lots of deaths. A lot of movements are done by groups, masses of young people that aren't really rubbing shoulders with a lot of older people. Do you think that sometimes some of the fast-growing churches are young people kind of run amok that, without the benefit of some of the older anchors? Or do you think the older anchors just keep them in their place? And you have, if I can see this, 1 minute.
Well, I definitely think that there's no secret that young people are always attracted to what is seen as the new exciting thing. And as you yourself mentioned, we've seen this in social revolution, we've seen it in political upheaval. I think you do see it in the church as well. A lot of times like-mindedness attracts like-mindedness. So if you have a strong like-minded youth-centered focus, that's going to attract like-minded youth-centered focus. However, as you said, a lot of times experience is invaluable in kind of tempering that energy and enthusiasm of youth with the experience and with the longevity of maybe people who are a little bit older. So I think that there's a benefit of both sides working together. One side brings the enthusiasm and the other side kind of cultivates and nurtures the vision.
Do you think either side without the other side is somewhat handicapped?
I would say that. So if you don't have the youth, you have the handicap of...
I believe the time is up.
Sounds good.
The next thought I have is fast-growing church always a good thing, or is there a possibility that if a pastor starts playing a little too loose with edgy stuff, where maybe the pastor shouldn't be, that the people notice that, but rather than jerking it in and stopping it, it kind of gives them license to be the same. Pastor's kind of doing this, so I can do this too, which is, don't talk much about it. Don't know if that's true. If it's not true, it's just an open discussion question, and I will say you have 1 minute.
Well, I would say the first thing we need to do, in my opinion, is we need to rethink that big, fast growth always equates to good movements of the Holy Spirit. It certainly can, but that's not necessarily always going to be true. Look at Jesus' own ministry, and he did have that big explosive growth, but his purpose was to go to the cross and die, and in the end, everybody deserted him, even his 12 closest people. So you would look at his ministry at the end, and you would conclude that it was a failure, but it was exactly what God's purpose was, which he was obedient to. So I think obedience is always going to be the safest place to be, and you just let growth be a byproduct of that obedience, but growth shouldn't be what we're chasing. So I guess I would say it can be suggestive of health, but it can also be suggestive, as you said, of extreme out of balance, where maybe there's a lot going on.
That's the clock. Okay, we are done now. If I can shut this clock off. We are done now, and I usually say I will see you in a few days, but I won't because I'm still up here. But as you know, all of these are designed, these devotions, to make us think, get us started talking. You can put comments down below if you want, but also to challenge us in our own personal lives. And the challenge is, like last week, are you in balance? Are you in danger of going a little extreme one direction or another direction? Are you starting to spend a little bit too much time following a group or a person that maybe you shouldn't be following, and getting your eyes off of the main point of Jesus Christ? Well, think about it, and God bless you.